Well, congratulations. You have made it to week 8 of the evangelism course. We have made it to week 8 of the evangelism course. I'm glad that you've been along for the ride. Today, I want to talk about and wrap this course up with a conversation about what is probably the most controversial topic of all. And that's even in the context of evangelism, which is a pretty controversial topic when it comes to churches. Some of you have found that out in your own churches. But today, I want to talk about numbers. I have been accused as a church growth expert. I have been accused repeatedly by churches I've done consultations with, by pastors I've done coaching with, that really all I care about is the numbers. And I have to tell you, I'm guilty as charged. You see, I think that numbers are of critical importance in the church today, and really always have been. But let me share with you just some of the numbers that I'm most concerned about right now. According to a study done by the Church Growth Institute, 89% of church members, when they were polled and asked, church members, these are people who actually go to church, they believe that the church exists to meet the needs of their family. That's why the church exists. 89%. A number that you've heard bandied about during this 8 weeks is that 15%, actually 14.8%, of U.S. Americans were actually in church this weekend. And with COVID, that number actually has plummeted. That's pre-March of 2020 numbers, that 15%, 14.8% of Americans were in church. My guess is that's significantly less today. For instance, we know that those who have gone to online church and have returned, that they have lost fully 30% of their average attendance. Here's another number. Less than 15% of first-time church visitors ever return to church. That means 85% of the visitors that come to your church have walked in, sat down, and left and said, yep, nope, not interested. What you have, I don't want. And if you're in the main line, which I think most of us are, that number drops to about 11%. And in our experience, that in the average main line, it's 6%. And if you're a small church, it's between 4 and 6%. In other words, fully 95% of your first-time visitors will never come back. They go, not for me. Another number that concerns me is that the average worship attendance in the United States in all churches is around 60. You'd think the mega churches would make up for it, but there's a huge number of small churches, very small churches, and the average number is 60. I guess the number that I'm most concerned about, or maybe not, close, is that 41 churches close their doors in North America every single day. That's 150,000 churches every decade. Which is really alarming when you put into the fact that there's only 350,000 churches today in the United States. And 150,000 of them will close within a decade. That's disturbing. But here, this is the number that most concerns me. Less than 0.5% of mainline churches perform a significant number of adult baptisms in a year. And a significant number? 5. Less than 0.5% of all mainline churches do 5 or more baptisms every single year. We're just not doing them. And the majority of mainline churches don't do any adult conversion baptisms. They might baptize a kid or a young adult who was raised in the church, but a conversion baptism, someone who was not a Christian and is now a Christian, just not happening in the vast majority of mainline churches. Of course, you know that the fastest growing religion in North America is none. People are leaving Christianity faster now than at any other time in our history. 20% of all U.S. Americans have no faith foundation whatsoever. They have no church experience. They have no synagogue experience. They have no experience in any religious organization whatsoever. And the younger the person is, the higher that percentage. That's the fastest growing demographic of all. The number of people who are increasingly having no experience. Our children, our young adults, very soon a majority will have never been in a church or a synagogue or a mosque or a temple or... That's just scary. Those numbers count. And when I talk to churches and tell them that numbers count, there's always a lot of pushback when I start talking about the numbers of the disciples and disciple making and all that. There's always pushback. And I really think largely it's because most churches and most pastors would rather live in denial about the whole reality of the thing, because they'd rather not have to take any responsibility whatsoever for their lack of faithfulness in the gospel, in sharing the gospel, in doing evangelism. That's somebody else's job. Let's not talk about those numbers, because those numbers are, frankly, embarrassing. And besides, numbers don't really count, do they? Except for those numbers are people. Those numbers are souls, are people who are in or out of the kingdom of God. You know, when it comes to numbers, the New Testament church, they counted. The numbers have always mattered. And that's especially true. In fact, they've always mattered so much that there's a book in the Old Testament called Numbers. But they matter in the New Testament as well. There's a couple numbers out here. There were 12 apostles. Jesus sent 70 out to preach the gospel. At one point, he fed 5,000 people. Later on, he fed another 4,000 people. He fed them with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. There were 99 sheep that were left behind when the good shepherd went out to look for the one lost sheep. There were 153 fish that were caught in the net. There were 120 at the first prayer meeting in the book of Acts. There were 3,000 converts on Pentecost Sunday. There were 2,000 additional converts very shortly after that. 500 people got to see the post-resurrected Jesus. And there were 144,000 who were sealed in the book of Revelation. The early church counted. Counting and numbers is important. It's because it's the only way we have to measure a church's effectiveness. Otherwise, it's just like, whatever. Let's just pretend that numbers don't count. And just imagine going to your board meeting next month and announcing that the church will no longer be counting numbers, will no longer count the offerings, will no longer be balancing the checkbook or keeping the books. That's ludicrous, isn't it? But by and large, that is what we do with the most important numbers, the most important commodity that we are charged with being stewards of, disciples of Jesus Christ. We don't want to count them. Oh, we'll count members, but counting to see how our discipleship is working, counting to see how our evangelism is working. We don't want, la. This next week or so, your final assignment is to write a paper on what effective evangelism looks like in today's world and how you can apply that to your setting. But it won't be worth the paper that it's printed on, assuming, of course, it ever gets printed per se. It won't be worth the paper it's printed on if you and your church don't get serious about doing effective evangelism. And the only way you can tell if you and your congregation is being effective in evangelism is by measuring it, is by counting. Numbers count because numbers are people. They're the souls that you've been entrusted to move, to touch, to inspire, to have conversations with, to share faith with, and to make disciples of. And the first measurable sign of that effectiveness in your church is the number of adult conversion baptisms that your church is doing. So I want to share with you what I call the pocket list of numbers that every church leader should be tracking. There's a dozen of them, and these are the numbers that really, really count in your church. And so let's start with evangelism. The first number to count is the number of new contacts that you've made today. Now, as I've said in this course earlier, a new contact is someone who you've not met before, and you get to count them as a new contact if you exchange contact information. You have to be able to follow up with them. So how many new contacts have you made today and tomorrow and the next day? You should know that number, how many you're making. The second number is to know the number of faith-based conversations you've had with unchurched people this week. Not just how many conversations, not having conversation in the grocery line and saying, hey, how's your daughter? But actually having a faith-based conversation, moving it into a faith conversation, a spiritual conversation. You're not having that on the first meeting, and probably not the second meeting. It may be the third or fourth or fifth or sixth conversation, and inviting them to your church is not the same. We're talking about a faith-based conversation, talking about issues of faith in a faith context. Third number is the number of baptisms that you've done this year. Now, let's just make it easy on you. The number of baptisms, period. Whether if you're in a denomination that baptizes infants or only baptize adults. Very few do the adult thing. We mostly do, let's be honest, we mostly baptize 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, very young adults. Not quite infants, but probably no more aware of what's really going on than the youngest ones. The next number is the number of first-time visitors that have visited your church this month. How many first-time visitors came? And then the number of the first-time visitors that match your target audience. That's another number. Someone who visits who has no chance of fitting in, okay, you count that as a number. They're one of the visitors that came. But how many of your target audience? If you've designed your worship service so that you can reach younger adults, how many younger adults have shown up to that service? At the contemporary service that we hold, we count the numbers who show up and the numbers of people who match that demographic. But we do the same thing for our more traditional service. How many seniors and older people or people with lots of church experience, how many of those come? So not just the number of visitors, but how many of the target audience you're trying to reach. Then here's the killer. How many of those first-time visitors returned this month? How many of your first-timers came back? There's how you get your statistics of what percentage are showing back up. Then the number of first-time visitors that matching your target audience that returned this month. Not just the average visitor, but were they your target people? How many of the young adults who came to your young adult worship service actually returned? The average worship attendance for each service this week, it's a normal number you count. The average worship attendance for each service this week last year, you want to be looking at that number. Are we up or down and what's going on there? Maybe this year on April 4th is Easter, that's this year. But maybe last year was, I don't remember, April 21st or something like that. So, if you match them directly, but how many on Easter this year? How many last year? How many on May 5th this year and May 3rd last year, etc.? How are we matching up? The average worship attendance the percentage of worshipers who are attending a small group. That's a good number to know. The percent of worshipers who are involved in hands-on ministry beyond the local church. How many people are doing something in ministry beyond. They're working in a food pantry. They're working on Meals on Wheels. They're volunteering their time at the hospital or wherever. How are they doing there? And finally, the per capita giving for the year. And you find the per capita number by taking your total amount of giving and you divide it by your average person who's worshiping. And it doesn't make any difference whether you count all the kids or just adults. So long as you're consistent, that's what counts, because you're going to measure this year by year by year. So, what's the average per capita giving? And for most churches, you want to be looking at that number in today's dollars, somewhere between $1,000 and $2,500 per person per year. Not per household, per person. That's what you're looking at. The reality is, folks, is you only grow what you measure. If you don't measure it, you'll not grow it. If you attend to these measurements, if you'll set goals for each of these then will become the markers that guide your ship, that determine where you're going as a congregation. If you never ask about the baptisms, people will just blissfully be unaware of them. But if every time you have a board meeting you say, well, we had one baptism this quarter, or one baptism this year, and you report on that every single meeting, eventually it'll catch on that that's important. Because numbers do count. And if you're not counting, it's really likely that your church is going to become a statistic sooner than later.